Yeah, they said the creek was quiet until I showed up with the flash. Now it bubbles like a cauldron full of chaos and sass. Flip the switch, boom, spores light the night. I'm that mad mycologist, cooking dynamite. Roll up in the lab coat, looking like a villain. Petri dish, pimping every strain I'm killing. Got that mycelium feeling spreading in the ceiling. Dr. Solary and Sermon got the culture kneeling. Moon pearl shimmer while the flask gets hot. MCM, baby, we the cream of the crop. I mix oats and sawdust, make that block ignite. Fun guy fireworks, call it Friday night. I'm a spore bomb lighting up the scene. Grow bags popping like a fever dream. Got jars on the table, culture's clean. Dr. Silurian cooking up that green. Mossy Creek, that's dynamite. Spreading spores till the stars take flight. Call the lab, tell them brace for blight. Cause I'm blowing up the world with my mycelial might.
Hello, it is me. Oh, I need to mute that. Muted. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. I better take the head off. There we go. All right, so I'm playing around with some infrastructure tonight. So we're going to have a little bit of fun doing that. Good evening. What's up, town? Nerd, what is going on? Nerds, what up? Says, died on Paperist. Paper Street. I'm guessing what that actually is. Well, anyways, guys, I'm preparing for my class Saturday. It's the Mushroom Cultivation Basics course, the online side of things. So we're going to play around with a little bit of infrastructure tonight. I've got at least 3 different cameras I want to try out and see just all kinds of cool stuff. And yeah, just see how walking around the op on one camera or another does us. So I think it'll be kind of fun, at least for me. And of course, I'll be answering your questions throughout the evening as well. Paul Gavin Music. Welcome, Paul. My first harvest at King Blues got rose comb. I'm in a beginner in a tent with the humidity at 92, temperature 70. My fan going at medium all day. Any idea what I should change? Your humidity is too high at 92%. What you need to do is get like a humidistat. And I like to put my top end about 95%. But then I like to have a low end of about 65 to 70%. And what I like to see is a really nice drying out period with a really wet period, drying out period, wet period, back and forth. So that would be the first thing that I would change. Also, sorry guys, where I was sick last week, it's kind of lingered a little bit, but it's like my voice is kind of going out all of a sudden. Hello, beautiful mushroom man in the chat. Welcome, Kimiro. Pause. I don't know what that means. Okay. Hopefully I'm not going to forget to unmute myself this chat. Unlike last time when I was going for like 20 minutes of no sound. Your videos have been so helpful. Thank you. Absolutely, Paul. Thank you. I always appreciate people answering or asking questions on here. It gives me something to do instead of having to talk about my own stuff. Real quick though, speaking of talking about stuff, we have the class going Saturday. That is full now. Pretty sure. I don't think there may be one spot left. I don't think there is. I'll have to check. I'm pretty sure we are full up. Oh, there's still one in stock. Okay. So there's one in stock according to the website. So there is one more space in the Mushroom Cultivation Basics course. I'm going to drop that in the chat for anybody who wants to grab that up. There you go. That is now in the chat. Beyond that, the liquid culture deep dive that's happening in December 13th still has 15 spots left. I do expect as we get closer to that to fill up pretty quick. Anybody who's taking the Mushroom Basics course or has already done a mentorship with me, let me know, and we'll have we've got a 30% discount code for you. So if you sign up for the Mushroom Basics Cultivation course and you want that 30% discount, let me know, and I'll get you the link. And if you've done a mentorship and you want to do the liquid culture deep dive, we do absolutely have some new stuff that we're showing in the liquid culture side of things. If you've done a mentorship with us in the past, then let us know. Send us an email, and we'll get you that link for the liquid culture online deep dive class. I have not yet, Thomas. I was hoping to have that by this evening, but it may. I'm gonna have to do it after the show or tomorrow morning. So, but we do have those going out very, very soon. I think all I've got to do is put the link to the class, but I still have to make the class pop up. So, looks like, I'm sorry, I actually missed something. But hey, Christian, good evening. When first starting out where production ability is higher than demand, how do you ensure you have enough mushrooms for chefs while also not producing too many? So what I would always do, I was always trying to overproduce. So the profit margin that you're making on oysters, lion's mane, things like that, or even the more expensive mushrooms, the profit margin that you have on that is you can have some waste and it still be making a massive amount of profit. So, and what that allows you to do is have add-ons, that you can. So, like you can produce, 200 pounds of oysters, 100 pounds of lion's mane, and then try to produce 50 to 100 pounds. And let's say your demand's around 300 pounds, you can produce another 50 to 100 pounds in like specialties, because you've got that capacity. You can try to stack sales on. So get your chef to buy 2 cases of oysters and a specialty case, or and you can do your specialties at like $12 a pound instead of the oysters at $8 a pound. So if you can do half cases at that point of the specialties, anything like that. But also having extra allows you to have samples. So if your production is more than you're selling currently, but there's still other restaurants out there, slightly overproducing, always targeting to slightly overproduce, is a good way to just have 10-pound cases laying around where you can do full-size case samples to chefs. So if it's your first time meeting a chef or targeting a restaurant and you're consistently overproducing, start sending out samples, and get some new clients going, and try to get people in on weekly orders so that you can kind of know where they're at. But I always try to overproduce. The profit margin's high enough. You should absolutely always try to overproduce. Do you have any exhaust fans going? Yeah, he mentioned that he had right here fan going at medium all day. So I assume that's a good point. Is that an exhaust fan? That should be an exhaust fan. If you are curious how to pronounce my name, it's pronounced My Liege, Protector, and Good God King of Denmark. I mean, is that a clue or is that like the actual pronunciation? And I'm not doing that. Scots Irish blood. We don't bend. Yes, going all day on medium. Okay, so yeah, I was an exhaust fan. Excellent. Yeah, so I mean, you need to be, take your CFM of your fan, take your cubic feet of your room. I like to replace about twice every 5 minutes or so, and then your humidity swing. That's going to help with your rose comb more than anything. That's usually a humidity issue, and if it's a bacterial, it's because your humidity is too high a lot of times. Andy Green, I'm looking forward to it too. We're gonna again play around with some cameras and stuff here, and that's going to give me some hopefully mobility to walk around the op. So like right now, I actually have pulled up the command cam. So this is the laptop's going to be my command central. Bam. Muted. Okay, there we go. So it's muted. But see, now I have the laptop. Woo! Oh my gosh, it's so wavy. But I'll be able to hopefully walk around the op. So we got the laptop, and then I need to get my other camera, which is just going to be my cell phone, pulled up, and that is going to allow me to do the cell phone on a what you call it, a Oh, hold on. I'm going to have to mute this. Okay, cool. There we go. And I'll mute the phone. Excuse me. So we'll also have like that, where we have the ability to have a close-up cam. So I'm pretty excited to have all of this stuff to be able to play with, and we'll walk around the op and see what we can do tonight, and then that's going to allow me to do a lot more in-depth teaching over the 6 hours Saturday. So plus we'll have the Q&As. A big greeting to you and your channel. I don't know English, but I gladly follow you, comment, and like your videos. You're a wonderful person. Greetings to you from Serbia. Well, greetings from East Tennessee, and I'm happy to have you. If you don't know English, how do you listen to me and know what I'm saying? Is translation software, or do you like understand English better than you type it, kind of thing? You seem to type it well. Of course, I also use translation programs a lot too when I have to. Hey, Andrew in chat, I'm going on vacation soon for a week for the first time since starting my farm. Any tips? Yeah, so the way we always managed to get away with getting a vacation was to your last delivery day of the week. So that was tended to be Friday for us. We would always come in Friday and just strip the grow room down of everything. I mean, we would plant blocks usually the day we left or the night before we left, depending on, what our schedule looked like. But we would plant new blocks, and then we would harvest everything that the morning of the last delivery before we left, and even down to pins, everything, because a week's a long time for mushrooms. So you just strip the room of everything, sell everything you can, whatever you can't get into walk-in or dehydrator, or walk-in probably would be the best one. You can dehydrate when you get back, and then plant your blocks. And then when you come back after a week, your blocks that you planted should be starting to pin. Some of the stuff that you had just picked you'll have some stuff that's a little bit past due probably in a week's time, but you'll get a lot of fruit up very quickly once you're back, is what it sounds like. So, and then the other side of that is when you get back, you can plant blocks again. So you plant right before you leave, plant right when you get back, and do your lab work. Like if we always try to do our lab work as late as possible, and we were going to be gone for a little bit longer than we expected. A couple of weeks before we left, we would more lightly spawned our substrate so that it would actually take a little longer to grow in, so that we would have less stuff fruiting in the bags or whatnot. But that would be a couple of weeks out from whenever you are leaving. That's the two biggest things. And also talk to your chefs. Just let your chefs know you're going to be gone and that you're going to be shut down for that week. Offer to deliver as right before you leave and right when you get back to cover any holes. And then if you've got family or friends that can come by and just pick for you, get them in and get them trained on how you want it picked and your SOP, but having people to come do it will help. And then just for your own peace of mind, hang up some Wi-Fi security cameras that you can access from your phone. They're super cheap nowadays. I think that the Wi-Fi camera has been the biggest peace of mind I've ever had, because I can just look at my app and go, put one in your grow room so you can watch your grow room. You can watch your humidity. Let's say you can't afford a thermostat, of course they're cheaper nowadays, but you can always get a Wi-Fi camera. And back in the old days, before I could afford, a bunch of stuff, I'd put a thermometer. So I'd have the camera where I could see the thermometer, like maybe in the room, one of the big dials or something. So I could check on the temperature. I might have one of those Lowe's wall hangers that's got the temperature and the humidity. And then I'd be able to just use the security camera, look at the whole room, and then I could see the numbers, that was a little bit back in the day, but nowadays they've got stuff you can check online. So if you get that, that's an even, any of the systems that have the thermostats, humidistats, and all that stuff that you can control from your phone, I would still put in a camera where you can see stuff. There's nothing like laying eyes on your op while you're gone. Vacation, while leaving your baby, while your baby's a farm. It's a big deal. A lot of people don't realize how nerve-wracking it is the first time you go. I believe you said that when you sold to restaurants, you sold in 10-pound cases. Did you also sell incrementally, for example, 15 pounds, or full cases only is what I ever did? I can't speak for some of the guys now because I've been out of the commercial game for a little bit. But whenever we were selling, we were doing 5-pound cases of shiitake only. That was the only one that we would do it. And we would only do 5-pound cases for the shiitake if they were already ordering something else, or wanted to pay us a delivery fee, that kind of thing. But we would not just deliver a 5-pound case. The main mushroom that I want to be growing is lion's mane. My apartment stays at 70 degrees all day. What mushrooms would you recommend to grow in the same tent as lion's mane? What humidity level? Oysters will do well. Same humidity level. Where I was talking to you about that swing, almost everything that people grow can be grown 65, 70 degrees. And with a humidity dry wet cycle I was talking about from 65 to 95. You'll have to, that's your starting point. You'll have to fidget with it because you'll find, watch your mushrooms if they start to dry on the edges. It will bring up your low end a little bit because it means it's drying out too often. The mushrooms get sopping wet. You want to bring your top end down a little bit. And you can grow lion's mane, oysters, enoki, some of the warmer weather enokis, though they're not as good quality as they are when cold. Chestnuts, black poplar, shiitake, all that stuff can be grown in those conditions. And that's why I picked those spots, was for the temperature and humidity swings, is it gives you this nice Venn diagram of a whole bunch of species and strains you can grow. So that's what I would go with. But lion's mane is actually, it's an amazing mushroom. So we're moving more and more into lion's mane ourselves every day. In fact, we've got a whole Hericium lineup that we're doing here very soon. I was wondering if it would make sense to add grain water left over from after soaking grains to LC. I know some people use it for agar, and the mycelium grows really thickly. You can try it. Sometimes it brings something like some nutrients and such over. Part of it's going to depend on the grain that you're using. Some grains have anti-nutrients in the hulls that are supposed to slow down things. A lot of our funguses that we use are not bothered by that stuff. So, you absolutely could try it. Sawdust, I think, is a better option because you can train your sawdust or your slurries or whatnot to take off faster on sawdust. Grain's usually really easy for most white rot fungi to eat. Could potentially help train the mycelium on the grain so it takes off faster and spawn. Yeah, you're thinking in the right direction. I would pick the sawdust point as all. You could also soak sawdust and then use the sawdust water if you don't want to use sawdust, because that is the problem with sawdust in liquid culture, is that it'll clump together, make it hard to pull up with a syringe. I'm thinking of trying your bulk substrate, 35 oats to 65 wood, since oats are so much easier to get than soybean hulls in Florida. It doesn't have to be pressure cooked since it has grains in it. I tend to pressure cook these days, but no, it can be pasteurized. I've ran it pasteurized plenty. If you want better second and third flushes, you're going to want to up your oats to like a 50-50 mix. You'll get that 65-35 works really, really well for a one and done. So you'll want to go a little higher on your nitrogen if you want seconds and thirds. I actually need to do an updated video for people so they know. Boy, that is a lot. What's up, Alex? Hi, my name's Alex, and I've been meaning to introduce myself to you for some time. I'll message you later as soon as I can. I just want to say I love what you're doing, and when I first got started a few years back, I always watched your videos first. Our business is Luminaire Mushroom Company, and I would love to meet sometime over Zoom if you have time. In Portland, Oregon, I'd love to purchase some cultures from you too, so I'll reach out so you have my info as well. We need, and it looks like it is continued somewhere. Yeah, man, just reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk to people. For sure. I harvested some lion's mane the other day. The ones harvested off the top of the block looked normal. Some sprouted on the underside, looked like bear's tooth. Well, I mean, bear's tooth, lion's mane, they're very, very, very similar. Um, in fact, a lot of people don't know this about Hericium, but I talked to Alan Rockefeller in my episode with him. Uh, the excuse me, the genus Hericium. There's a lot of stuff that looks like that presents as lion's mane. We thought was lion's mane, but it's genetically testing for other things. And then we have things that look like comb tooth that are testing when the DNA cut pops up as they look like Americanum or oh crap, shoot, Coraloides. They look like these other things, and then they test genetically for lion's mane. The taxonomy for Hericium is pretty scrambled right now. So what we're finding is that lion's mane looks very much the way it does a lot of times because of its environmental conditions. So where you're talking about one off the top and then one on the underside, that's not surprising that they look different. That's going to be very, very, very familiar for me because so many things. I'm sorry. I'm trying to silence this so it doesn't keep distracting me. But yeah, the different environmental conditions are going to cause different growth patterns. And basically the two different phenotypes. Phenotype is just your genotype, your genetics meets environment. So you've got two different phenotypes of the same strain growing because of the environmental conditions. Those genetics meet different environment. Hello, I hope the health is better. It is a lot better. Still, I'm losing my voice a little bit, and I'm getting a little bit of a tickle. So it's not going to be a super long live stream. Plus, I got to prepare for Saturday's class. So I'll be going for an hour and a half today, rather than the 2 hours or sometimes 3 hours that I go for. But do you have Tribble spun up yet? I ordered some maybe 3 weeks ago. I haven't heard an update yet. Just curious. Thanks for all you do. Yeah, I mean, email and Samantha's trying to catch up on emails. I know she's a little bit behind right now, but yeah, we got Tribbles going. In fact, I know I've got a lot of Tribbles going because we got Ready to Fruit blocks heading out soon as well of Tribbles. And Wolf's Bloom is being spun back up. And we got a bunch of Hericium actually coming out. We got the Greene County Hericium and some other things. Did you find it difficult to get restaurants to go from 1 case to 2 cases? It seems like a big jump commit to double any type of produce order. Not really, because like once they got into it, they started finding other ways to use it. One of the things to think about is that meat prices have continued to climb. And mushroom prices tend to have stayed stagnant or only risen a little bit, and in some cases even lowered. Again, I would not do a race to the bottom. I am not the kind of person. I do not lower prices kind of thing unless it's just obvious to me that I am missing out on a huge segment of the market because of it. But, know your worth and stay at the higher price. And don't join anyone that's trying to get into a price war turf thing with you. It usually only just ends badly for people. That said, once they get to where they're using you pretty consistently, when they start looking at all the other ways that they can stretch meat out further, that's I think the best use of mushrooms a lot of times culinarily is to use mushrooms to stretch meat out. We had an Italian chef, like a pizza place, and they made all their own ingredients, their own noodles, their own dough, their own, sausage, everything. And they would make sausage. And during COVID, when the meat prices spiked, they started using like they replaced a third of the meat in the sausage with like mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, and they just ground them up as they would grind up the sausage and mix it all together. And when they actually went back to fully meat after the meat prices went back down some, people complained and wanted the mushrooms back because it actually, increased the flavor. So, I found that chefs just have a way of finding things to do with it. When they get 1 case, let them use that 1 case for a while. Eventually, if they need 2, they'll let you know. But you can always also let them know that you've always got a little extra so they can feel comfortable to ask. But you can also offer other types of mushrooms. Maybe grow 2 different oysters with 2 very different use cases. One with hard stems, one with, like some chefs like to shave those hard stemmed oysters. They like to use the caps that like to saute and cook. And then they would take the leftover cluster of those hard stems and shave it with a mandolin slicer, put it in batter, and then deep fry them. And they made these little mushroom curls that people would then, put a dipping sauce and stuff into. There's all kinds of ways to use it, and a lot of times your chefs just need a little time to play. Could Black Pearl King work in circumstances I mentioned earlier? Yeah, you're a little bit on the warm side to get really good quality BPK, but you can absolutely get good BPK at that temp. You're just going to want to keep things clean. That's the biggest thing is clean, clean, clean. Fresh air, good clean air, good clean humidifier. That's another thing. Make sure your humidifier stays clean. So if it's a sonic humidifier, clean it once a week, like a good deep clean, bleach it, descale it, all that kind of stuff. My issue with leaving the farm is my farm going is I fill up my humidifiers daily. It's not plumbed into a water source. You might look into see if you can solve that before you leave. Then, if you can, it's not hard to plumb them up. And if you need some help, send me an email, and I'll get you in contact with the House of Hydro guys. But they can show you how to plumb that stuff up easy, especially if you're using the ultrasonic stuff. And they have little float valves for cheap and ways to hook them up. And if you don't, then you might find a bigger reservoir or something you can put in the place while you're gone. That is a problem. That is absolutely a problem. You can shut your air down or slow your airway down while you're gone, and you might get some leggy mushrooms by the time you get back, but you can, if you strip the grow room and then, bump the air up when you get back, then it shouldn't cause too much of a problem. A week isn't that long. You would only have a little bit. You're going to have a little bit of crop loss probably no matter what you do. But a little bit of crop loss is better than a big one. And your humidifier going dry may not destroy everything, but it could lower your yields significantly. If someone grows only top fruiting in the bag mushrooms, cough, cough, is it important? Yeah, gotcha. Is it important to have a higher humidity in the room? Thinking that lower humidity would help prevent unwanted fungal growth in the grow area. Yeah, so if you're growing in the bag, yeah, you don't need anything. I've grown in the bag lots of times. You can grow lion's mane in the bag. You can grow full canopy mushrooms in the bag. You can grow reishi in the bag, and you can just leave it alone, and drier air will help keep moisture off your filter patch for sure. Sorry, I didn't realize you read it. That's perfectly fine. Yeah, no big deal. Notification on this week. Are you going to post the calendar days you're doing mentorship for next year? Yeah, so I'm still not sure what I'm going to do. I'm trying to figure out how we're handling the mentorship. I've got some collaboration opportunities that I can do. I'm considering switching over to more lab mentorships, like short 3-day mentorships. I'm considering doing the full week one, but only doing offering one a month next year, which means I would only offer 12, which is crazy to me because I've always offered a lot. We'll be doing the classes. I'm absolutely, if you're talking about the online mentorship, I'm about to be, whenever after Saturday, I'm going to be working on the calendar and getting that released for the next year. I do know we're doing another mushroom basics cultivation course in January because this one filled up so fast. And then we'll have other mentors, like online mentorships we're doing. But for the in-person ones, we've actually considered maybe even stopping those. I don't really know yet what we're going to do. That said, I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot of choices to be made, and I have not made them yet. So I've got to think about that still. Maybe you can let me know what you would prefer. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, please. Yeah, just give me a contact. Email is always better than Facebook Messenger, just FYI. What's an average first and second flush yield from a good lion's mane strain? Oh, man, lion's mane should be able to spit it out. I've got a few tricks of the trade that I've used, and I can get like a good 12-pound block with a good recipe and a good strain. I've gotten 4.5, 5-pound flushes on the first flush. The mushroom is massive, and it's heavy, and they do like to fall off the block at that point. But the average, I would think, a good 2.5 to 3-pound flush off a 10-pound block is going to be a good first flush, about a pound on your second. Lion's mane, though, a lot of lion's mane strains have this, my voice just cracked. A lot of lion's mane strains have this ability to just, they're kind of like a Minoki where they'll flush the first time and they're able to just keep spitting out flushes. And you're like, this mushroom block has yielded more than the total weight in mushroom than the whole block weight. Like that's not physically impossible. Till you realize that they're like those ultrasonic humidifiers, especially they're literally pulling some moisture in from the air. Again, that's why it's good to have that dry out period because you don't want sopping wet lion's mane, but you do want heavy lion's mane. So, have you ever tried using those clay balls and substrate, thinking about getting some to add to plant soil next grow? So I do it with plants. I use those clay balls with plants and aquaponics, hydroponic stuff, that kind of thing. Fish tanks, they make a good medium for those floating nets, the fish tank net things. So they do really well for that. Yeah, it's Thursday Night Live, buddy. You keep forgetting? Yeah. But yeah, I've not used them for mushroom substrate. If I was going to do something like that, I would probably use something like perlite or something a little cheaper for the mushroom stuff. The clay balls would compost down nicely, but so would perlite. Charcoal is one that I like to use a lot of. Chunk charcoal, because you can usually buy that really cheap. It's really porous, and the mushrooms will eat it. And it goes really well in your garden later. So I use the contact form on the website. 7 to 10 goes by the way and didn't get a response. Does it not work? No, I've been so busy. I don't know. You're gonna have to let me know what you sent, but yeah, I'm way behind on stuff. I've taught 3 mentorships in a row, and then I've been prepping for this class. And Samantha's the only one answering emails and teaching certain things and doing the fulfillment. So you'd have to remind me what name you used or something so I could look it up real quick. But no, it works most of the time. There have been a couple of times where it gets lost. But no, it's just Sam and I, guys. So it's one of the reasons why I do these, so people that are missed I can get on here. But do you know what time you're starting on Saturday? Yeah, 1 p.m. Yeah, we're starting 1 p.m. I'll have the email out later on this evening. When I get off here, I'll build the studio space and the private link and all that stuff. But it'll be 1 p.m. Eastern, by the way. That's Eastern time. So, hi, Andrew. For areas that only have softwood pellets, do you have a current or future lion's mane or related strain? Most of the ones that we do will work. If you're talking about like Douglas fir, yeah, most of the lion's mane strains that we sell will work. I can't think of one that wouldn't. In fact, I got better yields on lion's mane using pine pellets, like the Tractor Supply horse bedding pellets. I got a larger yield doing Hericium on those. So it seems like the lion's mane seems like it likes softwood. Oh. Yum! Cheers, everyone! Yum! Oh, are we talking about the lion's mane or the oyster curls? Mossy Andrew's in the house. Mossy Andrew, I like that. I've heard. I like the name. I like moss. I like that Mossy stuck. I used to be confused by that. I was like, I'm Andrew of Mossy Creek mushrooms, but I like Mossy. I can be Mossy of Mossy Creek mushrooms. In a live about 9 months ago, you said you listened too much to other people on how to do things because you to bleed money and get super stressed. Could you expand on that? What was the bad advice you listened to? 9 months ago. So no, yeah, I mean, okay, I'm gonna pull up the other one just so I can keep that up. Cause you to bleed money and get super stressed. So hiring too quickly. I hired. You should hire slow, fire fast. That's good advice, in my opinion. Growing too quick was something I listened to that I just wasn't ready to grow as quickly as I did. I know a lot of other people that grow on farms right now, and it's kind of the same thing. You're never going to be prepared for that step up. Was it worth it? It was absolutely worth it in the end, but I got super stressed with the building out too fast. Now, granted, we were building up COVID, so it was a very different environment than now. I could build out a lot easier now than I could back then. Hiring people too fast. We just kept growing, and it was just a lot to manage. And I had not built up my stress eating ability, right? Like people don't realize that that's kind of like a muscle in and of itself, is your ability to handle stress. So you can that's another thing too, is early on in your process, learn healthy ways to deal with stress. Like unhealthy ways are not a good, like that. It doesn't get easier to manage stress when you get more bigger things, but having uh, having like 6 employees, having built out faster than I wanted to. Well, I mean, I wanted to build out just that fast, but faster than I should have, were the two biggest things. But you get that kind of stress on you, and it doesn't get easier to build healthy habits when you've got that kind of level, because you've got 6 people depending on you. You got people who have kids, and you know that the money you feed them goes to feed the kids. And, it's just a lot of kind of stress things. Um, she didn't have babies back there. But she brought it over there. She kicked it. That's where I keep my board games, and she has kicked my board games out like 3 or 4 times, and then she's only had the one kitten. So she only had one kitten, and she brought that kitten over there, and that's where they stay now. She's made that very, very, made me very aware of that. All good with emails, by the way. No rush. Just want to make sure it wasn't lost. Got responded to it. Yeah, like we're gonna have to go back and just like we do that regularly, where we go back and just find everything that we missed. Actually, now you can ask Google Gemini and be like, "What have I not responded to lately?" And that actually will help out a lot. And thank you for your patience. Yeah, we're always getting a little overwhelmed here. You said last slide that you replaced a couple of employees with a couple $100 in AIs, and the AI does a better job. What job positions are you like coding the website? Yeah, so like working on the website, SEO stuff. The AI is far better at SEO stuff. But video editing, that kind of thing, like breaking my larger videos down into 1-minute segments. Opus Clip is a easy one to do on that. It automatically do it now if I let it, which I don't, because it likes to pull up some weird stuff sometimes and say, try to edit me into weird things that will hopefully go super viral. But it's like, well, I don't want to go super viral if I'm wrong, kind of thing. So you do have to kind of control them, watch them, double check them, that kind of thing. But that's the main stuff, is like online side of things, business side of things, not the mushroom growing stuff. In fact, I'm thinking about hiring at least a part-timer come up again just to help me do fulfillments. And then we have I was thinking I've got some other projects maybe so might be doing full-time at some point. So I might see if I can get Tristan to come back here and do some work for me at some point. We'll see if he's ready when I'm ready. Little kittens freaked me out. Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, I answered that. Starting a new company, what would say be the best place to get customers? Well, that really just kind of depends on what you're wanting your work life to look like. So if it's restaurants, my thought was always full-size samples. So like a 10-pound case sample. And then you just go to your restaurant. So fine dining near me on Google. Find you some restaurants that aren't large chain restaurants, but are rather small regional chains or mom and pop small businesses, chef-owned restaurants. And then just find a time when they're open, arrive 30, 40 minutes earlier than what they open, and bring them a case with your card stamped on the top. Don't bring them your best mushrooms. Don't bring them your worst mushrooms. Bring them a good average. And that way, when they get the best case, they're really happy. When they get the worst case, they're like, oh, well, this was an off week, whatever. If you just bring them your best stuff, then when you have even an average case, it's like, well, maybe that's the bad week. And then, your average doesn't look so good no more. So that's a really important thing to me, is to try to bring them a good representation of what they'll be getting rather than the best thing just to get that sale, because it's kind of a short-sighted way to get the sale. You want to build relationships with your chefs, so be really respectful of their time, that kind of thing. Now, if you like talking to people and being at market is your jazz, and you're like, okay, I'm okay growing mushrooms twice a week, and then I want to be just talking to people. What's nice about market is you can get like $20, $25 a pound for your cheapest mushroom, and you can sell them in $5 baskets at quarter-pound allotments, and you can sling mushrooms like that all day, and people are elated. They're happy. Market's a pretty happy environment most of the time. I really enjoyed markets for the most part. It's when I started getting overwhelmed with everything that I was like, well, I got to cut out that. So because I started the online stuff, so I had the social outlet of the online stuff, the social outlet of the market, and then I had my chefs, I was just getting pulled into too many directions. So it was easier to say bye bye to the market. Plus, most markets are on the weekend, and we, by the nature of the way things were with our kids in school, we worked better on the week. And I wanted my kids to have their weekend, so I went more restaurants and online side, where so it just really kind of depends. It also depends on what you're selling. Are you wanting to sell liquid culture, spawn, mushrooms, extracts, value added? Like that's a really wide ranging question, but I hope that at least answered part of it for you. Is it's really just depending. You should look at what you want your life to look like, and then once you find a life that you think you're going to be comfortable with, then you start targeting your customers through that product line, because that will tell you more than anything. If your dream is to live out in the middle of nowhere, then the restaurant sales are the best, because you only have to go to the city once or twice a week to deliver your mushrooms. But if you live in the city and you want to live in the city and have an urban farm, a lot of times the farmer's market's the best way to go. It's really going to depend on what you got around you. What is the rough cost per bag for a 12? Oh, hold on a second. I felt like somebody was biting my leg. Rough cost per bag for a 12-pound fruiting block, including labor. I'll pull up a really quick, and I misspelled profits on purpose, just so you guys know. Okay. This is a very shallow spreadsheet that's backed up by other spreadsheets that just feed into this one. So I can change the outcome of the spreadsheet based on, okay, add to stage. I'll tell you what, I'm just gonna, all right, so you can see right here, by average, the block cost to produce a 12-pound block, including labor, was $4.68. This is off a master's mix recipe. So that's the soy and sawdust. Now, something that you need to look at, I have here, is mushrooms delivered. So everything, this was literally, I was doing 240 blocks a week. So my total cost broken down for every block out of 240. This includes I broke down my car insurance. I broke down the box. You can see here per block. So my box cost per block was 66 cents per block. I could have gotten that down a lot lower than I had it then. My labor and harvest packing came out to about 38 cents per block. That was handling all the way to the compost pile and the mushrooms to be delivered. My total delivery cost per block was pretty generous. I included a lot of stuff. I included my vehicle payment, my insurance, my fuel cost, my maintenance, everything. And I broke that down to about $2.93 per block. And again, that's pretty generous. I think I may have doubled that just to be safe. My grow room cost, this is my running cost of my grow room, the cleaning, the paying people to clean, and I guess that was the throwaway blocks, excuse me, the electrical cost of running the air conditioning and heating, and the average cost of, running my humidifier, which was like a smidge, came out to about $1 per block. So every 240 blocks a week, delivered to the chefs, cost me $9.65 total per block. That included my rent, my house insurance, or my house payment, my house insurance, my everything. I mean, like everything in my life, including mine and Samantha's salaries, totaled at $9.65 per block. And then our revenue was around $22.50 is what I had. But this is actually something I cut down here recently. It was actually closer to $30 per block revenue. So this is wrong because I was playing with the numbers. And I had about $18 in the total margin. Right now it's in the total profit. Right now it's down to $12.85 because, again, I was messing with the numbers earlier this week. And of course, that changed my margins significantly. So I might be able to find. I might be able to find where I changed this if you guys give me block cost analysis. So there's another one, but I don't remember where all this came from. Come on, share the screen, will you? Okay. Oh, I had to close out the other screen. Okay. So in this one, I had different number here for $3.63 was how much a fruiting block would cost me back in the day. And that was including soy, sawdust, electricity. I can tell you electricity now for me is 11 cents a kilowatt. So this is an old number. I have a lot of other stuff, like a lot of other spreadsheets I'd have to go through to find where these things changed. So oyster block cost analysis, maybe? Nope, that's not it. Well, I'll have to find it some other time because obviously we don't want to put the whole thing. Fruiting block production cost, oyster block cost analysis, oyster block profits. I got a few of them. But that one I just showed you is my most up to date, though. The end numbers are a little wrong because I was messing with the revenue and showing a Minty how much things would cost, even if he had produced less. I think that if I okay, I'm almost there. Almost there. I think I found what I needed to change. Yeah, okay, there we go. Cool. I just got it changed again. Let me pull it back up. Share screen. Add to stage. Ho-ho. Got it. All right, so here we go. I was able to get that changed by going back into a different oh my gosh, Google sheet. So you can see here, it brought it up to $28. What that is that's 3.5 pounds per block. So that's first and second flushes combined. Brought me a total of $18.35 in profit per block, even at a $9.65 cost. And that's at $8 a pound. So Hericium was better. Shiitake was a little worse. Margin of 65% with a markup of 190%. So that's okay. Hopefully I didn't go too in depth with that. I realized I probably ran at the mouth for longer than you guys really wanted on that one. Next question is going to be a long one. Please bear with me. Oh, long ones, huh? What bags do you recommend? I'm using buckets, but I'd like to be more prolific. For fruiting blocks, XLS-A from Unicorn Bags. The two cheapest places I can think of to get them would be Mushroom Media Online, which is actually in the same warehouse I'm at. So if you're close, you can come do a pickup and come say hey. But otherwise, Mushroom Media Online, you can get there. I think they have free shipping. And usually I can get them cheaper than I can from Unicorn. And then I think Eric Myers also sells bags cheaper. That's the only two places I know of to get them cheaper. I'm sure there are others. But you can get them cheaper than straight from Unicorn. I'm alone in my area. Closest farm is 1.5 hours drive away and is small, with about 1 million or so people available within an hour's drive. Another 1 million available if I'm willing to drive 1.5 to 2 hours. 1.5 to 2 hours ain't nothing for delivery. I used to drive 3 to 4 for the resorts. So I have the luxury of having a captive market with the downside of not really knowing what stuff sells for around here. Then go high. Always go high. And then you can always come down. If you go up on a chef, they resent you. If you come down on a chef, hey, they're thankful. Only pricing I get is from retail stores, but that buy from only the only wholesaler in the country, which seems to sell retail only, or smaller mushroom growers on the other side of the country, which isn't fully comparable high cost of living here. It'd be like comparing Ohio to Louisiana or Ohio to LA. That's my bad. How do you figure out what the market will bear pricing wise in this context? I mean, if they have portobellos and stuff, because I think my oysters were only about 30 cents more expensive than portobellos. What country are you in? And let's see. Maybe you could figure out like I think $10 a pound is a pretty good place to start for oyster. But again, if you're in a different country, $10 a pound is pretty good. But I know people getting $15 a pound for oysters in high income areas. So it's I don't know a good way to like just get your pricing. You're just gonna have to figure out how much it's gonna cost you to produce the mushroom, find out what's a good profit margin to you in the beginning, and then try to be fairly reasonable. The more competitive you can be with meat, the better. So, I mean, but obviously, I mean, if my mushrooms have got such a wonderful profit margin that you can afford to come down a little bit if you need to, and you'll still be making plenty of profit based on what number you have in your head. Hey, Andrew, hope you and the family are well. Can you comment on what reishi mycelium typically looks like? I have a fresh culture from a clone wild reishi. You sent an email with pics earlier. Reishi. Oh, hold on. I feel like I remember seeing it. I thought that I answered. I'm having a hard time finding your email based on the reishi search. So, oh, here we go. I see. Oh, you sent it in response to the online cultivation basics course. Gotcha. So no, I hadn't actually really looked at it. From those photos, I can't tell. That looks relatively reishi-ish. This doesn't look like a petri dish, though. This looks like one of those, solo cups that are a little bit harder to see through. That looks reishi-ish, but it kind of depends on how fast it's growing. Up. Hold on 1 second. All right, so all right, that looks. I don't think I'm gonna be able to upload that here. Okay, hold on. Yeah, that's not gonna pull up. It kind of looks like reishi mycelium, but it could be cobweb if it's grown real. Like you'll see it if it changes colors, you'll know it's mold because the color changes is indicative of the sporulation. So there is that. But yeah, that's that could be reishi. It's really hard to tell at that stage in those photos. If it's really big and poofy, like you said, cottony makes me think it could be mold. And if it's really fast, growing over everything, then it's probably mold. Oh. You need me? Okay. You're very welcome, Damien. Hey. Kilowatts cost 50 cents here. Woo! 50 cents a kilowatt hour? Oh my gosh. So before COVID, our kilowatt hour cost was 6 cents a kilowatt hour. And then during COVID, we had so many people move here that they now it almost doubled to 11 cents a kilowatt hour. It actually may be coming down. I need to check my electric bill, but it may have come down a little bit by now. Country is Denmark. That's right. Okay, the retailers sell everything for $40 per kilogram. So it's like $17 per pound. Oysters for like $15 a pound. Yeah, that's pretty typical worldwide. So, maybe look at what $10 a pound would be equivalent to you in Denmark, and then see, because that sounds reasonable, $10 to $12 a pound. But yeah, I mean, the higher you start, the more exclusive restaurants are going to want your mushrooms. But if you lower your price, you'll have a wider market. So in the beginning, when you have very little to grow, start high, and then as you need more customers, go lower. But if you go lower with your new chefs, you need to go lower with your older chefs too, just so you know. They talk a lot of times, at least they do here where I'm at, and chefs won't necessarily be fair. Just be fair with everybody. Last time you mentioned that Meow Mix worked well as a supplement. Do you think a different cat food would work too? Also, what ratio should it be? You want your protein content of your solids to be 4.5 to 5% protein. And yes, another cat food would probably work just fine. Meow Mix, I think, was just the cheapest protein per gram I could find. But yeah, that's pretty much, I think any of the cat food, dog food will work. You may just not, I don't know, some people have an ick factor when it comes to that. My wife absolutely hates the idea. She wouldn't eat the mushrooms off the Meow Mix. They tasted just fine. Do you think cornmeal would work as a supplement, or adding brown rice as a supplement? So both. Brown rice would probably be better. I think brown rice is going to have a higher protein content, and it will work. Cornmeal would work, but again, it's your nitrogen content. So, I mean, your protein content 4.5 to 5%, but it's the nitrogen you're after. And so corn does sometimes, some types of corn have higher proteins than others. The ones for cornmeal are oftentimes going to be more starchy. So, but like, I don't know, dent corn will probably, like feed corn will tend to have a higher protein content. But you can get things that are going to be way cheaper and easier to use than that stuff. I would, rabbit food pellets would probably be cheaper. And you can usually get those at like even Walmart and stuff. Just get the alfalfa pellets, or rabbit food, which is mostly alfalfa pellet. And then it's something like, it's something like a 90-10 sawdust to alfalfa or something like that for your protein content. I've seen businesses selling lion's mane in a CSA style for $17 per pound, but I have seen a large scale producer selling oysters for $6 per pound, but also some selling oysters for $10. Yeah, that's all over the place, and it's very much going to depend on your area. I wouldn't shortchange yourself. If you charge more for your mushrooms, it gives you permission to slow down and grow better mushrooms. There's going to be a point where your mushrooms are good enough that you are fetching a high enough price, but also selling them to enough people that you are now making a living. That's the sweet spot. You got to find the sweet spot. And I don't know of anyone who can just tell you what the sweet spot is. It's going to depend. It's going to depend on your pricing for goods. Your pricing for labor is going to be important. You need to pay yourself while you're doing this. I know people track your hours. Work a certain amount of hours, pay yourself a wage, whatever your wage would be. It's not the wage to replace you. It's just the wage to replace you in that job, right? Like, so here, I every job I do, I would charge $15 an hour because I could probably get someone in here for $15 an hour to do some of these things. That kind of thing. Hello, all from Badger County Mushrooms in Washington State. Well, hello, Badger Canyon Mushrooms. Welcome. Other side of the county, though, except retail stuff. Well, you also got to think that the big producers, you're going to be the chefs are going to be talking to the guy growing the mushrooms with you. They're not doing that with the big producers. So you're already sell higher than the $6 a pound. That's the large producers. Let them have that stuff. By the time the large producers sell oysters through the distributors, they're $8, $9 a pound already. So and your mushrooms are going to look better because they're not going through a distributor; they're going through you. Assuming that you can do all that legally where you're at in Denmark. I do not know the food laws in Denmark, so always be aware of that. I, I only know I know a lot of the United States at this point because we do so many mentorships and I work with so many consults and teach so many people from different states. But my international is still very spotty. What are you doing to refrigerate fresh mushroom walk-in? How big for 240 blocks a week? For a walk-in? And how big of blocks? 5-pound blocks or 10-pound blocks? 245 10-pound blocks a week is going to. Let's just assume it doubles, and let's just assume you're producing 250 blocks, so 500 pounds of mushrooms a week. If you deliver twice a week, you might only have to hold 100 pounds, 10 cases in your walk-in. Cool bots are a cheap way to do it. You can buy refrigerator panels really cheap now. You can put a stick frame construction up and insulate the heck out of it, and use a cool bot as a walk-in refrigerator. You can pick up walk-in refrigerators off farms or other like infrastructural places that are going bust. I think I got my walk-in panels and outdoor unit and inside air handler for $500 total. Granted, we bought the whole farm out, so it was only $500 for that piece, but it was probably that cheap because we were buying everything, that kind of thing. So it doesn't have to be a big space. A 10-pound case is only, I think it's 12 inches wide, or maybe it was 10 inches wide. Let's just say 12 inches. Always go bigger. That's what she said. Yeah, I mean, like a closet sized for that, because you can stack them too. So it doesn't have to be much. But if you're only going to deliver once a week, that changes things, right? Because now you're going to have to hold double that. Because I could always go in and, let's say, pick mushrooms Monday, and my delivery day is Tuesday. So I come in and pick mushrooms Monday, only pick what I had to. The next day come in, pick. So it might be 100 pounds that goes in the walk-in. Then I might come in the next day and pick 200 pounds. And then I have my 300 pounds going out for the first of the week kind of thing. Though I think, our bigger days, the smaller days tended to be Tuesday and bigger days tended to be Fridays. For the chefs, would it make any sort of sense to try to do a premium first sorting and a second sorting, so if the people paying more always get the best quality, as a way to have price tiers? Maybe. One of the things that I would say is, like, if you will commit to, I want $9 a pound. So let's say I want to sell my mushrooms at $8 a pound. I'll go tell the chefs, I have mushrooms, $9 a pound. But if you will commit to buying 2 cases a week, I'll drop that down to $8 a pound. And now I'm selling it at what I want to sell it at, but they also get a price break. And then the people who don't want to commit to me will pay the surcharge of not committing to me. And then what you tell them, I've never had a chef not see the logic in this, in which case it's like, look, I have a limited amount of grow space, and you're not really buying mushrooms off me when you do this kind of relationship. You're renting real estate, and this is valuable real estate. A, it prevents other people from getting that real estate, but B, it means that you always get this real estate. And my core restaurants, the ones that signed up for weekly deliveries, no questions asked. And they didn't deviate except to ask, can I get maybe one more case this week? But they never went down. It's just, that's the kind of way, build, repeat customers are the best customers, and try to just be as consistent for them as you can be. And for the price tiers and stuff, just try to be really fair. So, the premium thing is something I think for first sorting, but I don't really like that. I just always mixed my boxes as well as I could to average out everything, so everybody got as clean as possible. But what you can do is give them an incentive. The incentive being lower price point, but you can make that lower price point the price point you actually are looking to, that you're actually running your numbers at, or even a little better. What weight yield are you trying to get out of here without? Where are you going? All right, thank you. What weight yield would you expect from the cat food block if the block weighed around 10 pounds compared to unsupplemented? To unsupplemented? Gosh, I haven't done an unsupplemented block in forever. But I mean, I don't really know, but I mean, it'd be something like, let's say an unsupplemented 10-pound block might grow you a pound, but a supplemented block would grow you 2.5 pounds. But that's going to be about any supplement. The cat food block, it's just because of the protein content. Like, I'm not really after. There's no special quality to cat food. It's just that was the most affordable protein option. And nitrogen is what you're really after in this kind of supplementation idea. And nitrogen is a protein-bound molecule. So the easy nutritional information to look at is the protein content. You got to be careful, though. Like, so let's say cattle cubes. I tried using cattle cubes, which are 20% protein. So it's probably the cheapest protein source you can possibly get. But I don't know if it's the higher amounts of salt or what. But like the Inoki test we did, the cattle cubes barely produced. Whenever even though we calculated out, exactly how much these cubes to use, the sweet feed and the commodity feed worked way better. And commodity feeds are a good way to go. You can go to your local farmers co-op. Tractor Supply has one, but they hire nutritionalists for the area who design feeds based on, like, how do I make a complete feed, complete high protein, productive feed based on the ingredients in the region. And commodity feeds are usually the cheapest way to do that. So like that's oftentimes if you go in and ask about their commodity feed, what the protein content is. Here local, a lot of our commodity feed protein is corn protein. It's literally separated corn protein due to some process or another. And that's, those are great. What are the idea conditions for Tribble? Like again, most of the time, what I'm shooting for is about 65 degrees Fahrenheit and a humidity system that fluctuates between 95 to 65%. 65% on the low end, 95% on the high end, with it constantly swinging back and forth. And of course, Christian, you're not too far, so the weather here right now, like it's rainy today. The humidifier would barely kick on for me today. But if it's sunny outside, it will kick on and off a little bit more. What I like is I like to walk into that grow room and you'll see a thick fog. So thick that if you stuck your hand out, you stuck your hand out in front of you, you wouldn't be able to see it'd start getting hard to see. I love that thick fog. But then there are other times when you want to come in and it should be as dry as a bone. What that does is it allows the mushrooms to grow and remain supple while at the same time robbing the environment of puddling places. You don't want water to collect anywhere because that's where bacteria will grow. That's where flies will lay their eggs. That kind of thing. Collected 40 pounds of lobster mushrooms this weekend. What's in season in your area? We're going into winter oysters at this point. I think we're past the lobster ideal by a long shot. Though we're having this weirdly extended fall with cold punches rather than like just a good chill. Like we still have leaves on the trees here, and that's kind of strange. It's our winters lately are historically recent history have been pretty early and cold, and it's our rainy season. Man, I've always wanted to try lobster mushrooms. I've heard they're really good, and I love lobster. Used your LC for my lab, and everything is growing great. The students were super interested. Well, heck yeah. Glad to hear that. Always happy when it works out for you. I like it when my stuff works, unsurprisingly. Oh, man. That's cool the students are into it. I've been wanting to put together some student kits, I think. I'm using Izomite as a supplement, and it seems to be killing it. I bought a bag of Izomite, and I've not used it. I have not used it at all. And that is something that I really need to play around with a little bit more because I know it's becoming more popular. So with it becoming more popular, I think I always try to, and that's the thing, right? Is I'm trying to position myself more and more as a teacher, and with that, it behooves me to experiment a lot. So, all right, hold on. I'm turning on the second camera here, and then we're gonna. Okay. Nice. What is it? Hello. Okay, whatever. So we'll play around with that here in a minute. Hello. Oh my gosh, I can hear myself. It won't let me mute the feed. Okay. Anyways, we'll play this here. I've turned it all the way down, and it's as low as it'll go. Yeah. We'll just mess with it later. Do you use any types of mushroom agriculture focused AIs for mushroom stuff, or do you just use the normal ones like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude? So I've not used Claude. I do use ChatGPT and I do use Gemini. My favorite, if you're going for like a biology based one, I haven't used any agriculture specific ones, but Julius AI was a great one when I was using it. It's literally a bioinformatics AI. So it was really good at processing information. I'd take a picture of the oyster mushrooms and it could like pretty closely estimate the size. I mean, the weight based on the size. And it would compare the mushroom to the PVC pipe that was that was on the shelf. Like the Julius AI was really good. It was ahead of its time. I haven't used it lately, and it is expensive. I think that one was like $50 a month. But I got some people working in laboratories using that one now, and they really like it. I'm probably downloading a local LLM, so I can have on notes, studies, local conditions, etc., and make it super focused. Just curious about what you used. I've been wanting to play with some LLMs, but I haven't done it much yet, like the local ones. But I plan to get into that a little bit more and more. I don't know. I have some reservations about AI, but then I love it at the same time. But then I have reservations about it. So it's definitely one of those things where it's a really useful tool. But I feel like you could go too lazy with it if you're not careful. And you could, I don't think it should replace human work. I think it should aid human work, if that makes sense. Eagle Nest Farm, what are some supplements that you tried and didn't work? The main one was the cattle cubes. Corn. I've tried corn, and I hated corn as a supplement. It works well as part of a grain spawn option. Alfalfa didn't work out well for me when I tried it a while back, but then I was way over supplementing. Hydroponic nutrients, I tried to just straight up use hydroponic nutrients and calculate out the nitrogen needed for that, and that didn't work out well. The blocks grew in great, but they just never fruited. So hydroponic nutrients didn't. I don't know if they were too bioavailable and got burned up too quickly versus like grain and soy hulls and things that were a little bit more substantial and a little bit more slow release. I'm not entirely sure what happened. They just never fruited. What else? I haven't played around with it yet, and I think that this one will work well, but I want to play with duckweed. Duckweed is so easy for me to grow, and what's cool is you could literally take a tub, take a livestock trough of some sort, like the small ones even, throw a mushroom block in it, crush it up with like your foot or your hand or whatever, fill it up full of water, throw in a handful of duckweed in. As the block breaks down, the duckweed just proliferates like crazy. You can literally net it out. You can net out like half of it every day, leave it out to dry in the sun, and then you can get your dry weight right there. And then you look up how much, nitrogen or protein is in duckweed, and then just add that to the sawdust. And I think that you could grow I think you could grow your nitrogen source pretty easily just from spent blocks like that. But yeah, the two main things that haven't worked out for me were the commodity or the cattle cubes and the hydroponic solution. So I'm going to take we're going to take a break with our sponsor real quick. We're going to play with some cameras, and then I'm going to jump off of here. So, got to find my media assets first. Imagine a world where the most unique, rare, and powerful mushroom strains are preserved, studied, and shared with growers like you. That's exactly what we're building with the Mycologium, a living archive of fungal biodiversity, sourced from the wild, expanded in the lab, and made available for researchers, growers, and curious minds alike. But here's the best part. You can be a part of it. If you're a bioprospector, a forager, or just someone who loves finding cool mushrooms in the wild, you can send in your samples. If you send me in a wild mushroom and I can successfully clone it, I'll send you back a cleaned up culture of it. If you send me a culture that you've already cleaned up yourself, I'll send you one for our library, ready to grow, experiment with, or add to your collection. That's right. Culture for culture. You help expand the library, and you get something amazing in return. The goal? To preserve fungal diversity, to give people access to new genetics, and maybe, just maybe, to discover something truly groundbreaking. So if you've got an interesting mushroom, a rare find, or a strain that deserves a place in the archives, send it in. Let's build something incredible together. The Mycologium, preserving fungal biodiversity, one culture at a time. Want to learn more? Hit us up, shoot us a message, and let's keep spawning culture, y'all. Alrighty, let's trial. Hey, look, it's working. I didn't forget this time. All right, let's try this camera out. We're gonna go here. I have unmuted myself here. I don't know how good or bad the quality will be. Now, on the Saturday's class, I'll probably just have this connected to this one, and then I won't have to worry about it here. But let's also get oh. Like that better. All right, so we got the mic muted on that one. I'm gonna the cat box. Let's go for a short jaunt. Oh my goodness. Well, why did you come through right then? Oh my goodness. Okay, so heading towards the grow room. I am going to make you seasick, buddy. Hold on, we'll get one camera station. Okay, here. This is just so I can keep up with this. So we're going to... All right. I have removed me from stage. It looks like you are receiving sound from this. So, all right. Samantha's in here cleaning up. So we're just going to play around with some things. I cannot see anything that you guys might be saying. So I'll come back and check out the chat. But here's the shiitake we put in last week. And you can see that we are getting some really nice Donko shiitake. Oh no. There we go. We have a lot of shiitake coming in. Now, the nice thing is I'll actually, in the class, be just using this to set up as a remote camera. I won't actually be talking to it and moving it around much. But you can see we've got all these nice cracked caps coming through. I don't know why, but this one's my favorite. Little cinnamon cap one.
You're impeding progress, sir.
Am I impeding progress?
I need to vacuum.
Well, I will leave.
And pressure wash more.
We were just testing the cameras out.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a big one. Talking about this one. This is a big boy compared to the rest of them.
Like it's a pretty good size.
I'm gonna have to mirror the camera on this one because it's reversed right now. So it's a little hard. It's actually hard to turn the right direction. But I can't wait. These Donko form shiitake. I've been trying forever to get them to grow like this. Little tortoise shell patterns on them. Huh? Stay over here? Why? Where it's a little prettier? Well, they're definitely not as pretty over there. Oh, the moon pearls? Yeah. And look at these little guys. The Trace Amigos. And again, that camera's hard because it's reversed.
I figured where you were over here and it was nice and pretty with the stocky in the background. These are the moon pearls.
Well, they have lost their blue.
They have completely lost the blue.
Where it's gotten warm?
With that heat spike. Yeah. So that's where you pick it.
Almost like little potatoes.
They do. They look like little potatoes. But whenever it went down to the 40s, these were like a blue on blue on blue.
Well, I've got like some. They got like a tortoiseshell pattern.
They remind me of mother of pearl in that regard. That they were like a really beautiful blue, and then they grayed out with the heat. But these are literally just to see the texture on these for you guys. Oh no, who have ordered them? It is definitely just like a puffball. And they're kind of squishy and marshmallowy. So anyone who likes that king blue, kind of fluffy marshmallowy stem, this is it. I thought they were pretty cool. But yeah.
I like it.
And they smell really good.
They do smell really good. That's.
Sorry for the mess, y'all.
I'm not sorry for the mess. All right, I'm going to remove this camera. All right, cool. We could do a farm tour at some point. Speaking of the sponsor, is there a minimum distance for you to be interested in the same type of mushroom? Like if two oyster clusters are fruiting on the same log, or 5 feet apart, or 30 feet apart. So not necessarily distance, but I mean, use your good judgment. Like, I'm looking for different strains. I don't want the same copy of the same strain over and over again. So if you've got like a log and it's obviously two different types of oysters growing or something, that's a good indication, that I want something different. I mean, that's something different that I might want. Pizza. Okay. It's still coming through. How about there? Okay, cool. All right, cool. I've got to play around with this. I think I understand this pretty well now. And make that leave the stream. Yeah, this is going to work out well. I think I can actually move around freely, and I mean, that was the furthest I'm going to be. Didn't seem to have any problems. So cool. All right. but yeah, I mean, like that. If a log fell, and you've got oysters growing on this log and oysters growing on this log, and they're obviously two different logs. I don't care if they're 5 feet apart or 30 feet apart. If they're on two separate logs, we probably should get them. That kind of thing. So, thumb tour. You're moving too fast. Yeah, Jeff, I know. I was just kind of messing around. I should have slowed down some for y'all. It's a little bit easier on the eyes and the stomach, but I'll be moving a lot slower. Again, the cameras will be. In fact, I'm going to create like a waiting screen, I think, tomorrow. But the speed of the cell phone cam is it's like literally going to be on a tripod. And the idea is with the laptop, when I go to the lab, I'll be able to put it up when it's stable and not have to worry about, it being too sick. So too sickening. Video movement is fine for me. Make sure to mute individual mics. What you're doing, double audio is terrible. Yeah, absolutely. That's and it's hard for me. Like, I keep up well with stuff most of the time, but when I'm sick and medicated, I don't do so well, as we saw last week. So, but yeah, we'll be in the lab a lot Saturday. Grow room design's easy. I know it's the place where the sexy stuff happens, but that's the easiest place. Just that's the easiest thing to set up. Do you soak your blocks? Not on the first flush. Second and thirds, I've started playing around with, and yeah, you can keep getting flushes until the block starts to go moldy, that kind of thing. Mine would not fruit even at 95 degrees or even at 95 plus RH. Sometimes that's a so shiitake goes through a few different processes. One day I'm going to do a shiitake class, but you have I can't remember all of it right now, but you've got like buckling, popcorning, fruiting, you've got incubating, you've got aging. So you've got to go through a whole process, and most people try to fruit their shiitake too quickly, is what it comes down to. Because shiitake, even the signal, the cold, the smack, the cold, like I really go and I just slap the hell out of my blocks. But a cold shock work helps as well. The soak, but I don't find the soaks necessary on the first flush. But it also depends. It's strain dependent. Some shiitakes respond better to certain triggers than others. But almost always, shiitake needs a long aging process. And it kind of depends on what strain you grew. I see you down there, Hiles. Speaking of that, fruiting in the bag, what do you think is easiest, best way to add moisture after a flush? Soaking is normal, but can be prone to errors. Block splitting takes a while. I just run with it, man. Just soak. Soak's reliable. Soak's good. If you lose part of the crop, it's okay. Soaks are on the second flush, and if let's say a block splits in half, fruit the two halves. I mean, just keep going with it. I don't think that there is a better way to add moisture. But a lot of times when you're doing pellets and you're doing the blocks that you saw in there, those things don't come apart easy till you flush them 2 or 3 times. And that's one of the nice things about shiitake is it's easy to just keep going. In fact, I'm thinking so I've got a sprayer system that I just got, and I think what I'm going to do is when I go in and pick all my shiitake, I'm going to put the block right back where it was. I'm going to hang a low-pressure misting system above it, and I'm just going to soak the hell out of them. Just rinse. And then I'm going to turn it off and no more humidity, because that's really what we're finding with the the Donko form. I just saw somebody ask about that. The Donko form, Donko, Donko. Hiles, I put that in the chat just now. The Donko form is that cracked cap and tortoise shell appearance, but it can only be really done in cold weather. Like you need a good cold, slow growing shiitake, but it's the best texture you'll ever find. Donko sells for a heck of a premium to people that are in the know on those forms. So as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I do a big heavy soak of the shiitake on the second, third flush. Oh, forgot to mute the alarm. And yeah, give it a good smack. And if it splits, then it splits. Split's not bad. So, yeah, the other form, Hiles, is called Koshin. I just put that in the chat too. Koshin is like your 3782. They're typically grown warmer. They tend to be more fragrant, but they also tend to be much more tender. So, and they're used for different things. But Koshin is a quick fruit form, so you can grow it in warmer weather. It tends to be has a very fragrant smell to it, but the texture is a little less good. Like the danko is very chewy. If you look up in like Japanese society, they highly revere the danko form. The danko takes a big wet soak, cold weather, slow grow, and then dry conditions, because those dry conditions are like what happens is the mushrooms get enough water to grow, but then the outside starts to dry out, and as it dries out, it cracks as it continues growing, and then it'll continue to crack and grow, that kind of thing. Yep, that mobile cam tour of the grow room worked really well. Absolutely, Eagle. So yeah, I mean, for anybody taking the class, that's what we're going to be doing a lot more of. We'll be having, 2 or 3 hopefully camera shots, and it's definitely going to have some mistakes. I think that I can actually teach the class in like 4 hours, but I think that the 6 hour will give us plenty of time to transition and figure things out, and even have to take a break if we've got to. So I have large stacks of oak firewood. In a few months, there will be mushrooms on them, turkey tail, and several other varieties. Dude, clone everything you can, collect it all if you can. Absolutely. Well, hello, Leanne. Hey, Teddy, go say hi, and then hush it. Go. Yeah, man, please send them to me. I would love to get them. The turkey tail in particular is something I am absolutely wanting to collect as many strains of. Cough, cough, Aaron Hillard team up, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I got it. You did your... you know what? I do need to actually write that down, since this is our last mentorship that we're doing for the year. I'm going to start thinking about guests again and reformatting the show. That's something I want to go. I want to go back to having a lot more hosts. Aaron Hilliard, Mushroom Wonderland. And then how do I contact him again? You're very welcome. The Dunko's a new one for you? Aye, says Dunny. As well as soaking for flush number 2 plus. Could you add a feed supplement for the block within the water that would benefit a bigger, quicker flush? I think that you probably could, but I would say experiment with it first on the small scale. Try to remember, though, that any nutrition that you surface treat like that is going to be like shiitake blocks are already prone to molding after the flush. So what I would do, or after the soak, if you're soaking it in something nutritive, then you're leaving a skin of easy to eat nutrients on it. What I would do in that case is probably, what I would do in that case, if I wanted to add nutrients, is to use a syringe and just inject it into the block. That would be the way I would handle that if I was going to try that, rather than actually doing the soak with it. But I mean, you could try it, and it might work. I used softwood pellets. I'm wondering if maybe that was another factor that prevented fruiting of my shiitake blocks. I don't know. I've fruited shiitake off pine, and pine's pretty soft. So I don't know. I wonder about that. Yeah, Aaron. I just didn't know how I would actually. Aaron, love that skit. Yeah, that's a good one. My favorite skit by them is probably the text message where you want to go. Oh, do I want to go? That's so sweet. Sure, let's go. Just that it speaks so highly to me about the miscommunication that happens over text when people just assume your intentions. It's beautiful. But through his channel, you can contact him, like just via comment, I guess. I shall do that then. Or as contact us. Do we have contact forms on YouTube anymore? I thought they got rid of those. I'd have to look that up. 72 likes on my post. My shiitake mushroom post. I don't know why I needed that information right now on the live stream, but thank you, Instagram. Someone said ChatGPT caption. Well, it certainly helps in writing those things, but do you use LC for long-term storage? Paul from Fungi was saying that slants tend to dry out and become unviable a lot faster. That's weird. No, your slants should not be losing. Your slants should be airtight. If your slants aren't airtight, then you've got a filter there, and anytime air can move between them, your filter will fail eventually. That's always my motto. Filters fail. All filters fail. Slants are the better way. Slants are the absolute better way. But you can use LC. Now, are you talking about LC in the jars? Because jars are a terrible way for long-term storage. Terrible. LC is an expansion device mostly. Now, you have the Castellani method. Castellani method, which is to store in sterile water. And you can absolutely cap syringes and store them for a very long time, and the mushrooms will go into stasis. But I have found that where a slant will last me 5, 6, 7 years, even at room temperature, the syringes will sometimes never wake back up. So I still slant everything. I know it's a lot of work. The Castellani method, I think, is great for spores in particular. And I do think that you can store tissue that way for a very long time in certain circumstances. But the slant remains king for long-term storage. I've seen people starting to put. It makes me wonder if he's putting filters or something on it, or if he's not wrapping his slants or whatnot. But I've never seen them go dry. That moisture doesn't go anywhere. But I have seen people putting filter discs on slants, and that will dry your slants out for sure. And yes, the slants are the king supreme. Thank you, Jeff. Me too. I will try to keep your movement sickness, whatever it's motion sickness, down to a minimum on Saturday. I'll be much more mindful of where we put stuff and bringing stuff up and down. So, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm so excited about this class. I asked a consult question a little bit ago that you missed. Not sure if you can. Your purple. Okay. Oh, it's going to be a few months, but I definitely want to buy a consult with you. Do you do any type of preparation? Can I send pictures, notes, or do you look at all when the consult starts? No, you can absolutely send the preparation, and I sometimes will take a look at it beforehand. If it looks like it's all fairly simple stuff, I may glance at it, and then we'll start. But no, I do prep for these things beforehand. If it looks like you've sent me a lot of information, then I'll definitely check it out. Yeah, I mean, pictures are helpful, notes, etc. Anything you can send me to give me a better idea of your operation, the better. So I'm always down for that. Do slants last longer than plates? Oh yeah. Absolutely. Too lazy to check right now on your site right now, but do you sell shiitake plugs or plates, anything? We do sell 3790 and 3072 in liquid culture, plates, and slants, I think. I may have some spawn on there right now. I should have spawn on there because I've got spawn in the stock for shiitake. So I've got a nice Chinese shiitake. It's not on the website, I know. But I've got a Chinese shiitake that produces very few but very large plump fruits, and it's a pretty quick fruiting form. It's a koshin form, even though they're big. And I love, like, shiitake is one of my favorite eating mushrooms. It's probably my favorite, like, standard eating mushroom. Enoki is either it's either shiitake then enoki, or enoki and then shiitake. Even though Hen of the Woods is probably a little bit better than both of those, but hens are not one that I consider one of the most commonly grown. I'll keep it perfect nearby. Like I said, I'll try to be nice to you, man. Shiitake's my favorite with liver and onions. Oh, that sounds so good. I love shiitake on steak. And shiitake with liver and onions actually sounds like a phenomenal mix. I love liver and onions anyways. So shiitake with that, I can imagine, would just be phenomenal. Smaller surface where the mycelium grows combined with a deep well of agar means the mycelium can last a lot longer on a slant. Absolutely. Huge Janus. Huge Janus. ADD. ADDs. I'm having a hard time focusing. But yeah, that's absolutely right. It's a deep well of nutrition. A lot of people will let their slants they'll try to let them fully grow in, or they'll try to make little miniature slants. Just make the biggest, beefiest, chunkiest slant you can have, and it'll last you forever. You can take needle biopsies straight from it. You can take wedges from it. Single slant will inoculate, like one of my single slants will inoculate literally dozens, if not hundreds, of plates. You barely need to take anything out. They last for years. I literally I bought a farm out. Ben and I, Samantha, and Charles bought a farm out in 2019, and I have slants sitting at room temperature because he just gave me his library with his farm. I still have slants that are sitting at room temperature that I can pull from, and they still grow. How much better is that than in fridge? You know what I mean? So, like, people, I don't know why people, hey, get down. I don't know why people keep trying to go away from slants. I know they're a lot of work, but it's a lot of work it's actually not that much work compared to what it does for you just getting stuff slanted up. And I have hundreds of slants, guys. Actually, I need to put another order in for another 500 pre-made slants. And my guy who was doing pre-pours, I don't think he's doing them anymore. I need to check. You might know if Tim from Tip of the Cap is still doing pre-pours, because that's who I preferred to get my pre-pours from. I grow mushroom purely so I can make medicine. Will you give us any hints on medicine making in the class? I can do a little bit. Sure, we can do a couple of things. I do have a whole class coming up on extract making, where I'm going to go through like 6 different ways to make extracts. I said down, you evil little thing. Squanchy. He's evil. He's an orange. But yeah, we'll absolutely do some basic stuff for you. I've got a lot of stuff to cover in the class, and I got to make sure I get to it all. But I can make sure, like, as part of mushroom cultivation, I'm sure that I can make a single extract type. Hey, gosh, squanch. I freeze my slants after full colonization. So I have frozen some, and I have some that I'm testing right now. But there are some species that I'm afraid to freeze. So unfortunately, I'm slowly going through. I need to see you going back. I'm watching you. But I've like blue oysters and stuff. I'll freeze for sure, and they can stay frozen. I've literally had blue oyster frozen for 2 years in spawn form, and pulled it out, and it will still work. So freezing is not a bad way to go for the stuff that's really cold tolerant. Enoki will freeze great. What's up, Jesse? Not a bot. What's a standard enoki in maitake first flush yield? Oh, man, that's a really also open question. I mean, enoki's pretty standard to oyster as far as I'm concerned. And maitake, what was I getting? Off 12-pound blocks, I was getting over 2 pounds. It was what I didn't like about maitake was how long it took to incubate. But I was getting 2 to 2.5 pounds off a 12-pound block first flush, and I was only doing 1 flush, so I didn't have a second. And then I had chefs that would buy my maitake for $16 a pound. So you were still getting about what you would get from oysters on a first flush, but it took a lot longer. But you were getting double the income. So if man hours are your problem and space isn't, maitake's a really good one. And you can grow maitake and never even open it and sell the lump form. We call that antler velvet maitake. and chefs go crazy over it. And we sold that for $16 a pound and never opened the bags. It's really easy to grow that way. It's just a big lump of flesh, and chefs loved it. It looked a lot like the moon pearls that Samantha was showing us earlier. I'll sign up for the extract class. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure to announce it when it goes up. I'm going to try to have all 12 months worth of classes announced by January. I know I'll have at least January's class up then, but I'm wanting to do a cordyceps class. I'll probably do the extract class after the cordyceps class. I don't know. Maybe I'll flip that around. Do the extracts and then do the cordyceps, because lion's mane is going to be the most common. Lion's mane and reishi are going to be the most common extracts people make. All right, guys, I need to jump off here. It's only almost 2 hours, and I still got stuff to do. I still got to get the email together and everything. So I'll answer these last questions. I am also not a bot, though I use bots. What do you think about fermented composted wood compared to pasteurized wood? I've not really used much of it. I use that in the garden, so I don't have a lot of experience with it. But if you're talking about using it instead of pasteurized, as in to replace the sterilization process, I don't have any experience with compost as a sterilization practice. I've only used it for gardening and not. It's where all my spent blocks go. I've never used it to actually. I bet the straw works really well, so I imagine that you could probably do sawdust. But the straw is normally, I think it's mixed in with horse manure a lot of times for the portobello industry. I'm not sure. Senescence, what is the P level you normally use? I don't use a P level because senescence in mushrooms is not really, let's say, like P levels is just not a great, generations are not a great, what's the word I'm using for? Not indicator, metric. Not the best metric. So the, it is nice to know how many times your strains have eaten sugar. But what I do is I keep going back to slant. So once we have a slant, I'll do like a few transfers out, but then I just keep going back to slant. If you just kept expanding stuff, you're gonna be so overwhelmed with what you've got. The best thing to do is produce a system. So like, let's say liquid culture, for example, I'll do, but it's because I sell liquid culture. So keep this in mind, but I'll do, LC to LC times 3 with each transfer being 500 milliliters. So that means I can do 4,000 milliliters of liquid culture total, because the first one is the biopsy master. And then I can pull a syringe from that jar and make another jar. And then I can pull a syringe from that jar and make another jar. And pull a syringe from that jar and make another jar. Right? So you end up getting 4,000 milliliters total from a needle biopsy. Now, I do that because you can still expand it even further than that without any enzyme blindness, is really what we're concerned with. Senescence is not. It's a good filler word, but we now know that it's enzyme blindness is really the problem, not age. Most fungi don't age the way we age. That's why there's a honey mushroom mat that's 2,000 something years old, that kind of thing. They don't age the way we do. So they have protections against aging. So it's the enzyme blindness, which is mushroom diabetes, basically. You fed it sugar to the point that it's forgotten how to eat harder to eat food and produce its own sugar from that, or to break down the harder to eat molecules to get to the sugary stuff. So that said, like, I'll do the LC to LC transfers, then I restart from slant. Now that said, this first jar, the master jar, I can pull like 10 syringes and use those as restarts. So now I can restart 10 jars that are LC to LC1, right? And then each one of those, I could pull 10 syringes from them and store them. That could then be LC to LC2. And then from each one of those jars, I can save 10, and you could exponentially grow this so that you've got your rapid restarts. I don't go quite that crazy because there's no need to. Mushrooms are just that productive, though. So I don't really use a p-value. I don't keep, like, honestly, you should never have plates out unless the plates are actively growing something. You should never be storing something on plates. You should be bringing it back to slant as fast as you can, or whatever storage device you're using, if that's Castellani or whatever. But you need to bring it back to a storage device and only have out in plates what you are currently growing. So it should either be on its way to liquid culture, on its way to a grain master, or you shouldn't have it out right there. We're on its way to more plates, that kind of thing. You're welcome. You are also welcome. I heard that my Taki does not free if it detects any presence of lion's mane whatsoever nearby. Would they grow inside the bags, though? That I don't know, and I don't know that that's true about the lion's mane, because I had lion's mane growing in my grow room when I was growing my Taki. And I don't think that that's an wholly true statement. There might be something to it. I don't know about that. A lot of mushrooms are sensitive to the bioload in the air, and Hericium is a prodigious producer of spores, which is one of the reasons why it hurts a lot of people's lungs, including myself, more than like oysters and stuff too. So you use a needle biopsy to pull from a slant. If using a scalpel, it seems really prone to contam. I use a scalpel too. A scalpel if I'm going to plate, a needle biopsy if I'm going to liquid culture. You can go straight from slant to liquid culture. It's one of the most efficient ways to use a slant. Absolutely, Mr. Greenfingers. Glad to see you on here. Everybody, thank you so much for joining. I am going to sign off. I'm going to get that email out for the class, and I've got to get the stream made. But we'll get some communication out tonight, and then we will work from there. I appreciate you guys joining me. Please remember that we have the Liquid Culture Deep Dive coming up December 13th. And if you're taking the Mushroom Cultivation Basics class, that you get a 30% discount for that. If you've done a mentorship with us, you get a 30% discount for that. There is one spot remaining for the Mossy Creek Mushrooms, the Cultivation Basics class. At least that's what the website's saying. But we have one more on there. So if anybody wants that last spot, I'm putting the link in the chat right now. You can go ahead and grab that up. And I really appreciate everything you guys do for us, provide for us, and all the questions you guys ask. So thank you again for joining me.
Yeah, they said the creek was quiet until I showed up with the flash. Now it bubbles like a cauldron full of chaos and sass. Flip the switch, boom, spores light the night. I'm that mad mycologist, cooking dynamite. Roll up in the lab coat, looking like a villain. Petri dish, pimping every strain I'm killing. Got that mycelium feeling spreading in the ceiling. Dr. Sala reading sermon, got the culture kneeling. Moon pearl shimmer while the flask gets hot. MCM, baby, we the cream of the crop. I mix oats and sawdust, make that block ignite. Fun guy fireworks, call it Friday night. I'm a spore bomb lighting up the scene. Grow bags popping like a fever dream. Got jars on the table, culture's clean. Dr. Silurian cooking up that green. Mossy Creek, that's dynamite. Spreading spores till the stars take flight. Call the lab, tell them brace for blight. Cause I'm blowing up the world with my mycelial might.